Hi there, Rohit Raju, and I want to talk to you about some Marvel stuff. What up, guys? Rohit Raju here, and I want to talk to you about Marvel Doomsday or Avengers Doomsday. A buddy of mine and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu, and he had said he's really not excited for that movie. He doesn't care. And he said something that really resonated with me. He said the magic is gone. And I'm like, damn, that's spot on, right? Like Star Wars, of course, I've talked about Star Wars 1,000 times in many videos and said how there's tons of brand damage. And I think there is. I think a lot of people, besides people that enjoy the sequels and stuff, most people just really aren't in a good place with Star Wars. And I was wondering if Marvel Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday, is going to suffer the same fate. Now, I don't think so. I think Marvel and Star Wars are in two different spots. Marvel still has good faith with fans because their most recent wins, which was huge, Endgame, that whole saga, it's more current than like the original trilogy. The original trilogy, if you really look at it, is like a lifetime ago. And I won't count the prequels because those weren't loved by all when they first came out. But the majority of people really loved the culmination of the 11 years leading up to Endgame. Now, phases 4, 5, and the beginning of 6 have been extremely lackluster. I remember myself, I was not on board. I remember watching the movies that had come out, Black Widow, watching Thor: Love and Thunder, what's the WandaVision, watching Cap and Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and what was the other one? Shang-Chi. There's a lot, right? And I remember watching those and just thinking to myself, these aren't good. They're very run-of-the-mill. The formula is the same, and nothing stands out. I mean, some of them are enjoyable, but they're forgettable. That's the big word for me. They're forgettable. And a lot of them just stuck with the Marvel formula, and it did their new heroes that they wanted to be on the next level. It didn't do them any favors. Now, I will say, and it sucks saying stuff like this, I feel like a lot of this phase, the current phases, they were just trying to check boxes. Having inclusion and stuff is awesome, but you can't just say, oh, look, we have an Asian superhero, and then just kind of give him a lackluster movie. I like Simu Liu. I really hope he would I wish he would get on with it and do a Sleeping Dogs movie, one of my favorite video games. But that movie didn't do Shang-Chi any favors. He was forgettable. Right? I mean, he's not going to lead the Avengers. He's not going to lead a new phase. Neither is, unfortunately, Falcon. That was proven as Captain America. His movie felt very bloated. They had tons of reshoots. It didn't feel like it was anything special. And Hulk stood out in that movie more than anything. And this Cap is such it's a poor, I don't say a poor man's version because I think that's kind of mean. It's just a watered down version of Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers, the goody two shoes, worked because he's from a different time. The Boy Scout Falcon, it doesn't work. It just feels like a very bland, I want to be a Boy Scout superhero. And I'm not saying he needs to be like the Punisher, but not having the serum, it's boring. His iteration is boring. And I love Anthony Mackie. I think Anthony Mackie's a great actor. Same thing like with Thunderbolts. You have Elena, Florence Pugh, great actress. But the character of Yelena, she's just boring. She's very dry. It's like toast. There's nothing that stands out about these characters and makes me want to say, oh man, I really can't wait to see them again. And that's what the majority of their characters from phases 4, 5, and 6. The movies were just very blah. And like I said, they're very forgettable. Thunderbolts was a good movie. I was really hoping She-Hulk would be good. But a lot of it, again, like I was saying, like they were checking boxes. Like they had Echo. They have the Eternals. A lot of that felt like forced diversity, and so it really, they didn't do them any favors because the diversity part was supposed to sell their movie, but the stories and I can't say the actors because it's not the actors' fault. The presentation of these movies and shows didn't do them any favors. And then you had some very, very horrible things. And before I get into like the horrible stuff, like I was saying, like with She-Hulk, right? Like Tatiana Maslany or Tatiana, is it Maslany? Great actress. But they were so focused on insulting the fans that want to, I guess you can say some of the Gooner crowd, but they were so focused on insulting that fan base. Like, that's a fan base that cares about She-Hulk. Hate to tell you that. That's a fan base that has been buying your books and playing the games and, all the product for the past few years. That's your fan base. To sit there and insult them, that's just pretty stupid, right? I mean, you have the wrong people. Again, kind of like how Star Wars was or is, you have the wrong people in charge of certain things. So they took a very hard, I'd say, pandering. They really pandered with certain things, like Falcon at the end. You got to do better, Senator. Like, it's like you're preaching to people. And then they would have, like with WandaVision, Wanda did some horrible things, but they tried to switch it at the end and really gave her some heavy entitlement, like she was the hero. No, she was shitty. The terrorists in Falcon and Winter Soldier were shitty, but they tried to paint these people that did shitty things as heroes because they were trying to really pander to a certain audience. That's not going to work. I mean, they weren't pandering in the first few phases, right? They were just making good superhero movies, and not all of them were good. Thor 2, looking at you. But yeah, they were just they got away from what they lost their magic. No, I felt like they were kind of getting it back. I thought Fantastic Four was a really good movie. However, I for sure thought that was going to kill it, and it didn't. And I will say this, where I think Fantastic Four was a better movie than Superman, I watched Superman way more. I only watched Fantastic Four once. I watched Superman multiple times because it was just a fun movie. It had a lot of good emotional beats, and it was just a feel-good show, feel-good movie. Where Fantastic Four, it was really good, but it didn't, not one time did I feel like the stakes were high. And I don't think it didn't generate with mass audiences. Same thing with all these heroes that they introduced. None of them generated with the mass audience. Sure, there's those diehard fans. They're like, well, you guys are just wrong. These superheroes are great. Hate to break it to you, they're not, And that's usually the pandering crowd that likes the checkbox, when they check boxes and stuff like that. That's usually that crowd that wants to preach to you and be ultra progressive. That crowd are the ones waving those flags, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, but that crowd, you can't tell them anything, just like the weird grifters that are like, Marvel went woke and now they went broke, and those fucking morons. Thing is, regardless of all that dumb shit, you didn't resonate with your mass audiences and a lot of your diehards because you were just putting out slop. Not everything was slop, but a lot of stuff was. And then even stuff like, I was really looking forward to Daredevil that new season 1. I don't know what the hell that show was. It just felt like a mishmash of, it felt like it felt terrible. And then they would do things with Hawkeye. Again, it wasn't about Hawkeye. It was about Kate Bishop. You're trying to push Kate Bishop. And then you really have Kingpin be this fucking pussy of a character at the end of that and get whooped by this 18-year-old girl or however old she was. And it's just like, what the hell are we doing? What is the mindset of this? I don't understand that. So where you had the culmination of a well-crafted plan, at least that's how it turned out to be, leading up to Endgame, you don't have that with Doomsday. So they bring back the old hitters, the heavy hitters, RDJ, which I don't know how that's going to work out with him being Doom. That can either work or not. Then you bring back Steve Rogers, and I saw people complaining, well, they're bringing back these heavy hitters because that's what works. And you need these old characters, and like with the X-Men characters, you need them to bring in and have hype and interest around your movie. Now, I don't think the hype and interest is as big as they want. Like that thing with the chairs really went off like a wet fart in church, or a fart in church, whatever, you know the saying. But it didn't go over well because people were hyped for that announcement, and the announcement was a bunch of chairs and then RDJ like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And people were like, really? We hyped that up for what? Like, why the fuck did we hype that up? That was nothing. And then they had the trailers, which I thought it was dumb that they had the trailers release only with Avatar, and then they got leaked. I will say this, at least the numbers on Instagram, and I don't know how well these views count, when they released those trailers on Instagram, those trailers, the views were in the millions. So that's a good sign. The thing is, as well, you are putting together a movie where you have a shit ton of characters, you don't have good build-up, and it is costing you a lot of money. Rumor is this movie is anywhere from $500 to $1 billion. So that means you have to make $2 billion or like $3 billion to make a profit. Now, if the movie is good, like great, and it's like people are like, oh snap, I can't wait, this movie was awesome, I can't wait for the next one, I gotta go watch it again, that's a possibility. If you lose money but you still generate that old Marvel feeling, you can take that loss, but in the long run you're going to win, so that would be good. But if this movie is very bad and convoluted and it doesn't hit, which is a possibility, this could be very make or break for Marvel. And I don't know, I don't know if how that's gonna pan out. Is the hype there? I think there is some hype. I think you could really get the hype train moving if you have a strong Avengers Doomsday trailer. I mean like strong. And you get like a tease of Doom. You do something that really hypes it up and looks fantastic. Yes, I think you can get a shit ton of people in their opening weekend. I think they will anyways, but I think you can get way more, and then you can get those repeat viewings. If the trailer is kind of want, that's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt people really wanting to see this movie. I think people are going to want to see this movie not because they're hyped, but because they're curious and Marvel still has good faith. I'm not hyped for this movie, but I am curious, and I do want it to succeed. I don't know how, because you have a lot of people that are supposed to be in this movie. I don't know how you're going to make that work. Russo brothers have a good track record with the Endgame and Infinity War, the Infinity Saga. So it's possible. It's possible they can make this work. But it's possible, too, that it's very convoluted because you don't have anything building up to this. You had to scrap your plans with Jonathan Majors. You had to really revitalize the brand, and you had to junk a lot of things. And now you have these characters that aren't really hitting with the mainstream audience, and you have to figure out a way to bring them in the fold. Maybe if you kill a bunch of them off, sure, that may piss off a lot of people, but also I think the majority of your audience right now, like at least your normies, they don't care. So if you kill these characters off, it sucks for the actors and actresses that are involved in that, but you might have to do that, wipe the slate clean and restart. So there was something else I was going to touch on and I forgot what it was. I don't remember now. But are you guys hyped for this? Do you think it's going to do well? I really feel like a good, solid trailer can get the hype train moving, or it can derail the hype train. I think people are more curious right now. You do need RDJ. You do need those heavy hitters like Chris Evans to come back, because a lot of people don't care about the characters that were in 4 or 5 and the beginning of 6. And that's sad. People don't care about the Fantastic Four. That's sad. At least a lot of your normies don't. That's my stomach growling. I don't know if you can hear it. At least a lot of your normies don't, which is a bummer because that movie was really good, and I think those characters should be a staple in the next phase. But if they're not, if it didn't hit, it didn't hit. There's nothing you can do about that, and you can try to generate interest in this movie, but you honestly can't focus on those characters, those side characters, those Phase 4 and 5 characters, because you have to progress the story. And so a lot of characters are going to get left behind and kind of left in the background. And then a lot of people seem more interested in X-Men than they do the Phase 4 and 5 characters. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping we get a big trailer soon. I'm really hoping we do. Those teaser trailers were good, like the small little ones, like with Chris Evans or Captain America will return, or Steve Rogers will return. The X-Men will return. Those little trailers, they were cool. They didn't generate a lot of buzz. People like them, but now that buzz is gone. If you really think about it, you look at it after they released those, there really isn't any buzz and hype right now. People are just kind of like, eh. So I think they should release a trailer soon to get the hype train moving. But what do you guys think? Do you think I'm crazy? Is there a lot of buzz and hype? I'm honestly not seeing it if there is. Do you think Doomsday can make its money? Do you think it can make $2 billion, $3 billion? I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe they'll break even. That's good. The main thing they need to do, in my opinion, Doomsday needs to be good, and it needs to generate that Marvel buzz. It needs to generate that Marvel hype of old, and it needs to bring back the normies and the mainstream audience to really get the brand pumping again. Please sound off in the comments. I want to know what you think. I want to know your thoughts. Are you hyped? Are you not hyped? What's going on? And why, if you give an answer, why are you hyped or not hyped? Let me know. Thanks for listening. Take care.